So Russ is officially done, right?
He's cooked.
Like Russ is done.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like unless he's willing, and maybe he is willing to take those jobs where there's no chance you ever play, but can't nobody put him back out there, man.
He looks so old. So my question for you now, looking back, if Russ that we knew, star quarterback Russ is done.
Right.
So now, how do you think his time at the end of Seattle, his time with Denver those 2 years, now with Pittsburgh and now with the Giants, how has that impacted how we view Russell Wilson? I'm not even getting into a Hall of Fame candidacy, just how he's viewed overall, because in Seattle, he was the quarterback looked at, he couldn't do any wrong. Now that perception has totally been flipped, especially after what happened in Denver.
Well, what's interesting about it is, so I remember when things started going bad in Denver, I used to use the Apple News app a lot. And it was stunning how the algorithm every day just sent me how terrible Russell Wilson was, right? Like it was all kinds of different things. People hate Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can't do this, everything else. Like I can't think of a time when a turn has happened on a player that felt quite like it did with this guy, who was ultimately really inoffensive. And I think that has colored the way that people have talked about his career, right? Now, you say we're not talking about Hall of Fame candidacy. Let's put that up there, though. I don't buy the idea that you could play yourself out of the Hall of Fame, right? If you ever thought that man was a Hall of Famer, then he is a Hall of Famer. Now, an interesting comparison is him and Stafford, and people who listen to this show know I talk about Stafford all the time, but Stafford is probably going to make the Pro Bowl this year for what I believe would be the fourth time. Matt Stafford, because of how he's playing really this year, is going to make it into the Hall of Fame. Right? Like I think, oh, by the way, it'll be his third time if he goes this year.
Wow. Okay.
Russell Wilson's been in the Pro Bowl 10 times. Now, I'm not saying that Pro Bowls are the ultimate metric, right? But the metrics that people have typically used, Russell Wilson clears them. He's won a Super Bowl as starting quarterback. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's had how many seasons of 30 touchdowns? Say what you want about the defense that they had in Seattle. It wasn't like Russell was out there throwing the swan at Stallworth when he was getting this done. Like he had his flaws as a player, but if you ever thought that he was a Hall of Famer, then I don't think that what has happened these last couple of years would take him out. But I'm a person that thinks that longevity is typically overvalued when people talk about whether or not you go into the Hall of Fame. To me, it's like, what were you at the peak of what you had? Now, he was never first team or second team All-Pro. That's another fair discussion. But if you ever thought he was a Hall of Famer before, I think that means he's a Hall of Famer now.
So looking back at those Seattle teams, like right now on the face, without having to look up all the numbers, how many of those guys from that Seattle team do you think ultimately make the Hall of Fame?
I think Russ makes it. I mean, I'm still going to say I think he does. Now, It'll be interesting. It may take a while, but I think the resume is kind of difficult to fight. Marshawn Lynch is going to be the interesting one. I think he probably gets in because of scarcity at the position in the time period, and he's generally a liked guy. But I think him. Then on defense, Bobby Wagner, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman.
There's no disagreement there. Like I thought all three of those guys. Like some will try to make an argument for Cam Chancellor there, but it's fringy. I don't see it happening. The Earl Thomas is interesting. Like at one point, he was in that conversation for best defensive player in the league.
Yes.
Like I get like everybody looked at Sherm because he talked, and we know how solid Wagner was. But Earl Thomas was the best defensive player on that team.
I agree. Or like Bobby Wagner's going to walk in there.
Of course.
Earl Thomas, I think people have just kind of forgotten, but I think it's pretty clear that he is going to go in there. Yeah, with Cam Chancellor, just a reminder, safety is a tough position. It took Steve Atwater 30 years to get into the Hall of Fame. Well, not 30, but it was, a significant period of time for him to get into the Hall of Fame. But yeah, Russ, again, the distaste that people seem to have for him. That's the part that I find to be so strange I get it. He's a bit annoying, but he don't do nothing to nobody.
He's harmless, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately harmless.
And so, hey, man, we got to run with the point that Ryan made before the show. I asked the question, man, what the name of the podcast that Russ and Ciara going to be? Or is it going to be a reality TV show where they go find wayward boppers, influencers, and pop stars and help them find themselves an athletic man?
Hell, that could be a podcast itself.
Yeah, but I mean, they're going to make a whole TV show about that one.
and two, like it's all gonna be relationship based though, right?
Yes.
Like whatever it is, whether it's the podcast or reality show, it's gonna be relationship based,
With a
right?
lot,
Like, hey,
with a dollop of the savior.
well, that's ever present. That's
Yes.
always gonna be that. That's because that was able to happen. Remember, it was preyed on. So that's where it starts.
Remember when Russell Wilson tried to convince us that somehow they had started doing that thing, and then they yeah, whatever you say, dog. That was I'll tell this right fast. This is being shared. I think we were doing a radio show together by then.
Mhm.
And long and short, Russell Wilson got on some TV show and told everybody that he and Ciara decided that they was gonna be celibate until they got married. And that became a topic on television. And I'm built different than a lot of people. And so people would talk about it, and some folks would talk about how they was impressed by that. And I was not. I was not. I'm not impressed by you not having sex with Ciara. Not at all. Boy, one of my colleagues jumped on Twitter and got mad at me. And he said that I owed an apology to him and everybody else who believed in his Lord. And I was like, that's not happening, sir. You must be crazy. Hell no. What are you talking about?
Out here being celibate after you're already dating Ciara. There's a dude I know
from
who
the
says
implication after y'all already was doing it.
Right. That would be actually defined as hustling backwards.
Correct.
Like, what are we doing? We're here now. Like the proverbial toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah.
Like we here now. We made it.
Yeah.
Like,
good for you, homie. Right? like I'm giving the most backhanded. Yeah, good for you. But anyway, the podcast is coming.
Okay.
Now, is Russ gonna be bad for business? Is he gonna mess up the podcast?
I think he'll find a lane. I think they'll find a lane because you got, like you said, the amount of people who are going to be into that, especially the church going folks are going to be all in. The relationship folks, the folks, well, how can I snag me a baller?
Yeah,
there's an absolutely a market for that.
See, that when Ciara write that book, that thing go fly off the shelves.
Look, man, you got to gatekeep some of this stuff, man. like what do they say? A magician can't reveal all of his tricks.
Yeah, but they gonna be so much paper in that. That's that book. The streets that I don't traffic on are clamoring.
Not to mention too, like the game is so different now. Like how these kids move in these internet streets now, and the social media and the streams. Like I don't understand any of it. Like I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So I can't imagine the lengths in which some of these people do, sliding in DMs, fake FaceTimes, the whole nine. Like the game is out here.
The game's out here. Wait. Hold up. Let me ask something before we go get to break. I didn't expect that we talk 20 minutes of the Giants, but the Giants are actually giving us quite a bit right now. Like I feel like we're where the people are. We're not just doing this for ourselves. But you had made a point earlier, and we talked about this. The Giants have started a black man at quarterback on purpose one time, and they fired the coach for trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had fallen for the Shedeur Sanders thing like a lot of other people, and you were hoping that the Giants would take him because, honestly, y'all had never done that before. And then you saw that they got Jackson Dart, who I guess my point is every day somebody around Shedeur Sanders looks up and sees Jackson Dart acting like he's shooting dice and be like, yeah, but what if that was me, huh? What if that was me?
Points are made, but with that, like that's coming after the production. That's coming.
Oh yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
Like that's
but you know this. You know.
Oh my God, he could never.
God, can you imagine he was doing half of that stuff? Like
he could never.
Like I think it's ridiculous, and I would think it was ridiculous if Jackson Dart did this. But I thought the Shedeur thing with the watch was ridiculous and incredibly off-putting. I don't want anybody 20 years old throwing money in my face. I'm sorry. Like that's just not the
especially
game.
Someone who grew up with money.
Yeah, we don't want that. And people have skepticism. Jackson Dart would get he'd have a Richard Mille deal out of that if he was out there. Like he is, like I'm telling you, Shedeur over there, like why he ain't going to fifth round? Huh?
But you know what it really is though. Politics, man.
Politics. I'll tell you this though, they really don't want Shedeur starting in Cleveland at this point. Like,
And it's funny you bring up. I was mentioning this to somebody yesterday after we had the news that Travis Hunter was going to be out for the remainder of the year. That Colorado run seems so long ago
it's like
now.
it never
Like,
happened.
doesn't it? Like, think about it. That Shador, Travis Hunter, Deion Sanders, Colorado, all at the top of the news stack every week,
Yeah.
week in and week out for 2 straight seasons.
Yep.
That seems like such a long time ago.
Well, what's interesting is it proves it was really about the players. Like Deion was the
Hmm.
start, but the coach couldn't sustain it. It was about the players, and they got some guys, right? That
Right.
maybe at some point it could happen. I did see somewhere on the internet where one of them spam accounts is trying to make the argument about whether or not Colorado might be thinking about firing Deion Sanders. Shit. Deion could go win 4-5 games a year for them for 15 years. As long as they selling tickets, right? They'll be happy. The only problem is, hey man, them boys gonna stop going.